Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the threat policy management features used by the Nexus Lifecycle and Firewall products. The Sonatype Nexus platform provides three products. The much-loved Repository Manager, which is an enterprise-class artifact repository allowing you to cache your own packages but also proxy any public repositories such as NuGet and Maven. Nexus Firewall provides you vulnerability information on those open source components you're downloading from public repositories, but as the name implies, also allows you to block repositories from ever entering Repository Manager if they violate your policies. For those components which are already in your ecosystem, being used by developers, part of your releases, we have developed a very excellent Nexus Lifecycle. Lifecycle provides information to developers about those components and how they rate against your company's policies. It lives in your CI and your CD stack, providing again information on evaluating all those your nightly builds and your deployments, and even stopping those processes from occurring if they violate your policies. And we will even provide you information on new vulnerabilities on the components that are part of the applications that you have already deployed. Both Nexus Firewall and Nexus Lifecycle are fed by our intelligence engine and policy manager called Nexus IQ server. Let's take a look at that. The Nexus IQ server comes preloaded with a customizable default set of policies, which trigger against components which violate licensing, security, and even architecture issues such as old age. Let's take a look at one now. A policy consists of a name, a threat level, and a constraint, in this case a CVSS score greater or equal to 7. This means if a component that has been scanned has a vulnerability with a CVSS score greater or equal to 7, it will trigger this policy. And you can set actions based on that trigger. Thanks to our high quality human curated data, you're able to actually automate what happens when these policies are triggered. So it's not just a reporting tool. So at the Nexus Firewall level, you can actually block components from entering your repository manager if they violate this policy. You can warn developers that they're using components that are that are having passed basic hygiene levels. You can, at your nightly build level, warn all stakeholders and maybe even stop those builds from succeeding. When staging for test, when releasing and at deployment, you can also stop those processes from completing when they violate your policy so that you're ensured that what you're releasing is a known state with any vulnerabilities that you have mitigated or understood. With the continuous monitoring feature, we will reevaluate released applications to alert you of any new vulnerabilities that have surfaced for those components that are part of that application. Policy management is hierarchical and inherited so that you can define policies at the root level, at a group level, and application level, and each level inherits from its parent. When an evaluation completes, a report is generated and stored in an IQ server where it displays per application for each stage that that the report was generated for. So let's take a look at a report. You first see a summary page that shows you the number of components that were identified, how many components violated critical, severe, or moderate policies. Then we break that down between security and licensing analysis. So in this case, you can see that 8 of the 10 components that violate critical policies are security related. You can see that 4 of those have a security threat level of 8 and the highest is level of 9. Let's take a look at policy violations. So here we see a bill of materials of all those components that were found within the application that was scanned. They are grouped by policies that they violate, and those policies, those groupings, are sorted by threat level. This is important because threat level is a customizable item just like every other part of a policy. So that if a component shows up at the top of this list because they violated a high threat level policy, that means that you have deemed it to be high risk for you. This is based on your own company's policies and risk assessment. As an example, the first highest threat policy here is license banned. This means that when the scan occurred, the license banned policy was deemed appropriate for this application. But if your application is something that does not require you to concern yourself with licensing, you can exclude that particular policy just for an application or across the board, so it doesn't show up on this report at all. The next policy on this list is security high, which if you remember means that these components that have violated security high policy have at least one vulnerability with a CVSS score greater than or equal to 7, meaning they're bringing in that much risk into your organization and increasing your attack surface. So let's pick on a specific component. Here we see the component info panel, which we also include in as plugins for IntelliJ and Eclipse and Visual Studio. In this panel, you see licensing information, any policies that were triggered for security issues, and how old the component is. We see here that we actually provide this information not just for the current version, but for previous and upcoming versions of this particular component. See, you see information about licensing in this row, and here we see security information. And specifically, how are the policies, how are your specific policies rate against those specific versions? So you can select a version that meets your policies. For this particular version that was found in this application, we can see what policies were triggered, maybe waive them if that's going to be a potential thing you can do, and see all the different vulnerabilities found within the component. Here we have information on the vulnerability that we selected. Our team of security experts take the output of AIs that they have built that scour our different sources and qualify the information that they return. And they further qualify. So this is human curated data. They verify that there are no false positives. They investigate the issue so they understand it and understand how it actually applies to this particular component and provide you as much information as you need to be able to make an informed decision if you're unable to move to a cleaner version. If you need to know details as to how you could be affected by a particular component and make a business decision on whether or not how you're going to remediate, that instead of reading a whole bunch of white papers and blog post after blog post, we've done that research for you and we provide it for you in an easily digestible format with even recommendations on how to remediate and what are your options. Along with this view on components grouped by policy, we'll also give you a list of all vulnerability security issues found and their components that have that particular issue, sorted by threat level of the issue, separated from the threat level of the policy that it might trigger. So you can see all your security issues regardless of how you've configured your policies and provide the same information for licensing analysis. Lastly, the dashboard view collects all the information on the most recent scans across all applications within your organization and presents it to you in a way that allows you to be able to evaluate what threats do you have across your entire organization. You can filter that, of course. We can also view a wall of shame of all components which are bringing you the most risk, and even evaluate which applications by themselves are bringing you the most risk at which stage of development. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you would like to know more or you have any questions, please go to sonotype.com or contact us at sales@sonotype.com. Thank you.